Welcome to Space Nexus. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon for more breaking updates tonight. A seismic shift in American economic policy and a profound constitutional test of presidential power. The Supreme Court has struck down the sweeping tariffs imposed by former President Donald Trump, calling them an unconstitutional overreach of presidential authority. The decision, delivered this morning, dismantles a controversial trade policy and raises fundamental questions about executive power. We'll break down what this historic decision means for you, the country, and the world. To understand today's ruling, we need to look back. On April 2, 2025, the Trump administration imposed sweeping tariffs on most imported goods, citing national economic security under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. Critics warned these tariffs were a massive tax on American consumers and businesses, raising prices and sparking immediate legal challenges. The average U.S. tariff rate soared to levels not seen in generations, collecting $95 billion in duties and triggering retaliatory tariffs from abroad. Courts repeatedly ruled against the administration, arguing only Congress can levy taxes and regulate commerce. Despite this, the tariffs remained until today's Supreme Court decision. The policy divided the nation, pitting America First supporters against a broad coalition of businesses and legal scholars. The Supreme Court's decision landed like a thunderclap, reverberating through the nation's capital and far beyond. In a matter of moments, decades of established trade policy were upended, sending shockwaves through government agencies, financial markets, and businesses large and small. The ruling was not just a legal technicality, it was a sweeping, unequivocal rejection of the entire tariff framework that had shaped U.S. trade for years. With a single stroke, the court nullified the entire tariff structure, rendering countless regulations and enforcement mechanisms obsolete overnight. Customs officials scrambled to interpret the ruling, while importers and exporters rushed to understand what it meant for their bottom lines. On Wall Street, the reaction was immediate and exuberant. Stocks surged as investors anticipated lower costs for imported goods, a potential boost to corporate profits, and the easing of long-standing trade tensions with key partners. The market's optimism reflected hopes for a new era of global commerce, free from the uncertainty and volatility that tariffs had brought. Politically, the ruling ignited fierce debate. Trump allies and supporters condemned the decision as blatant judicial activism, accusing the court of overstepping its authority and undermining the executive branch's power over trade policy. Protests erupted outside courthouses, with demonstrators decrying what they saw as an attack on American sovereignty. Meanwhile, others hailed the decision as a landmark victory for the rule of law and constitutional checks and balances. Legal scholars and opposition politicians praised the court for reaffirming the limits of presidential power and restoring congressional oversight in matters of trade. The government now faces an unprecedented logistical and financial challenge, refunding up to $80 billion to importers who had paid the now invalid tariffs. This massive payout threatens to strain the already overburdened Treasury, which is grappling with a near-record national deficit. Lawmakers are scrambling to find solutions, debating whether emergency measures or new legislation will be needed to manage the fiscal fallout. For businesses, the end of tariffs brings both relief and anxiety. Many welcome the prospect of lower costs and expanded market access. But uncertainty looms over how and when refunds will be processed. Small business owners in particular worry about cash flow disruptions and the complexity of navigating the refund system. The U.S. customs system, designed for routine operations, is now overwhelmed by the sheer volume of refund claims. Experts warn of a bureaucratic quagmire, with months, if not years, of delays likely as officials struggle to process paperwork and verify eligibility. Across the country, supply chains and business strategies are in flux. Companies are reevaluating sourcing decisions, renegotiating contracts, and adapting to a rapidly changing trade landscape. The ripple effects are being felt from major ports to small-town warehouses, as everyone tries to adjust to the new reality. Ultimately, the Supreme Court's decision marks a dramatic turning point in both economic and constitutional history, one whose consequences will unfold for years to come, reshaping the balance of power and the future of American trade. The focus now shifts to the daunting task of refunding $80 billion to American companies. Customs and Border Protection isn't equipped for mass repayments, and most refunds are still processed manually. Businesses must file extensive paperwork, a major burden for small firms. Many owners like those at Peace Vans must decide whether to chase refunds or cut their losses. Wall Street is already exploring buying refund claims at a discount, offering quick cash to businesses but diverting some funds to speculators. The process promises to be slow, complex, and fraught with uncertainty. For months, businesses across the country struggled under the weight of tariffs, facing mounting costs and uncertainty about the future. Many small business owners watched their profits shrink as they tried to absorb higher prices on imported goods, while others were forced to pass those costs on to customers, risking lost sales and loyal clientele. The pressure was relentless, and for some it felt like every day brought a new challenge just to keep the doors open. Today's Supreme Court ruling brings a wave of relief for many, yet it also ushers in a new set of challenges. While some business owners are celebrating the end of tariffs, others are cautiously optimistic, knowing that the road to recovery may be long and uncertain. The decision marks a turning point, but it doesn't erase the hardships endured or the work still ahead. In North Carolina, a furniture company owner described how the tariffs forced her to raise prices, delay hiring new workers, and even consider cutting back production. She explained that the uncertainty made it nearly impossible to plan for the future, and every decision felt like a gamble. The tariffs didn't just impact her bottom line, they affected her employees, her customers, and the entire local supply chain. Now, with the possibility of tariff refunds on the horizon, she hopes to reinvest in her business, expand her workforce, and restore some of the stability that was lost. For her, and many like her, the ruling offers a chance to rebuild and look forward with renewed hope. Small businesses in particular felt the squeeze most acutely. Unlike large corporations, they often lack the financial cushion to weather sudden increases in costs. Many owners had to make tough choices, cutting hours, reducing staff, or even closing their doors temporarily. The impact rippled through communities, affecting not just businesses, but families and neighborhoods as well. In Colorado, a bike shop owner shared how the tariffs nearly put him out of business. He struggled to keep up with rising costs on imported parts and worried about having to lay off his small team. For him, the Supreme Court's decision is more than just a legal victory. It's a lifeline for the little guy, offering hope that small businesses can survive and thrive once again. Consumers too stand to benefit, as the end of tariffs removes a major source of inflation. While price drops may not happen overnight, experts predict that shoppers will gradually see lower prices on everyday goods, from groceries to household items. For families already stretched thin by rising costs, even a modest decrease in prices could make a meaningful difference in their monthly budgets. But not everyone is celebrating. In industries like steel and aluminum, workers worry about renewed foreign competition and the security of their jobs. For them, the end of tariffs brings anxiety about layoffs and plant closures, and a sense that their livelihoods are once again at risk. A union leader in Pennsylvania called the ruling a setback for American workers, expressing concern that local industries could face instability and job losses. He urged policymakers to find new ways to support domestic manufacturing and protect workers from the unpredictable swings of global trade. The Supreme Court's decision will send ripples through every sector of the economy, touching businesses large and small, workers and consumers alike. As the nation adjusts to this new reality, the true impact of the ruling will unfold in the months and years to come. The Supreme Court's decision reverberated worldwide, signaling a possible end to the trade war. U.S. trading partners welcomed the ruling, seeing it as a chance to reset negotiations and roll back retaliatory tariffs. The sudden policy shift could accelerate or complicate ongoing trade talks with Europe and the UK. American brands hope to recover from declining sales and anti-American sentiment abroad. The ruling is viewed as a return to a rules-based global trading order, restoring predictability and cooperation. Allies see hope for greater stability in the world economy. Beyond economics, this decision is a landmark in the constitutional battle over separation of powers. The Supreme Court reaffirmed that only Congress can levy taxes and regulate commerce, rejecting the administration's broad use of emergency powers. The ruling limits the president's authority to enact sweeping economic changes without legislative approval. Legal scholars say this is one of the most significant checks on executive power in recent history. The decision could influence other cases on presidential authority, signaling a shift toward greater judicial oversight. Supporters praise the restoration of checks and balances. Critics argue it restricts decisive action in crises. Future presidents will need to work more closely with Congress on major economic policy. Legal and economic experts agree this is a major reassertion of congressional power. The decision marks a significant shift in the balance of power between the legislative and executive branches, a move that many believe is long overdue. For years, there has been growing concern over the executive branch's increasing authority, often at the expense of Congress's constitutional role. This ruling is seen as a corrective measure, aiming to restore the intended checks and balances within the federal government. Professor Jonathan Turley calls it a textbook separation of powers ruling, limiting the president's ability to rewrite tax and trade laws. This decision underscores the importance of adhering to the Constitution's original framework, which clearly delineates the powers of each branch of government. By reinforcing these boundaries, the court is sending a strong message about the limits of executive authority. Economists warn of immediate fiscal shocks from the $80 billion refund and a rapid economic reset as tariffs vanish. The sudden removal of tariffs is expected to create a volatile economic environment, with businesses scrambling to adjust to the new landscape. Financial markets are likely to experience significant fluctuations as investors react to the uncertainty. The long-term economic impact remains to be seen, but the short-term disruptions are expected to be substantial. The refund process will be a bureaucratic ordeal, with companies facing mountains of paperwork and long waits. Businesses will need to navigate a complex web of regulations and procedures to claim their refunds, adding to their administrative burdens. The sheer volume of paperwork and the potential for delays could create significant challenges for companies, particularly smaller ones with limited resources. The ruling also impacts the Supreme Court's public image, challenging partisan perceptions. By making a decision that goes against the interests of the president, who appointed many of its justices, the court is attempting to demonstrate its independence and impartiality. This move could help to restore public confidence in the judiciary, which has been eroded by perceptions of political bias. Legal analyst Sarah Isgur notes, the court's decision was based on law, not politics, reinforcing its role as an impartial arbiter. This ruling serves as a reminder of the judiciary's fundamental role in interpreting the law without succumbing to political pressures. It highlights the importance of maintaining the integrity and independence of the judicial branch. By checking a president from the party that appointed most justices, the court aims to bolster its legitimacy. This action is seen as a crucial step in preserving the balance of power and ensuring that no single branch of government becomes too dominant. It also serves as a powerful statement about the court's commitment to upholding the principles of justice and fairness. This moment will be studied for years as a turning point in American governance. Scholars and historians will analyze the implications of this ruling, examining its impact on the relationship between the branches of government and its broader significance for the future of American democracy. The decision is likely to be remembered as a pivotal moment in the ongoing evolution of the nation's constitutional framework. To recap, the Supreme Court has overturned the Trump tariffs, triggering economic and political shockwaves. The government faces the monumental task of refunding billions, while global trade relationships are reset. Most importantly, the decision reaffirms Congress's role in economic policy and checks presidential power. The consequences will affect prices, businesses, and America's place in the world. The story is far from over. Debates over power and policy will continue to shape our future. Staying informed is more important than ever as these decisions define our democracy. Thank you for watching.